Avoiding uncomfortable conversations doesn't make the reality behind them disappear. To understand the actual scale of sexual violence in India, we have to look past assumptions and follow the data. For decades, the legal baseline was Section 375 of the Indian Penal Code. This colonial-era statute was recently replaced by Clause 63 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. This transition modernized the law, broadening the definitions of sexual violence and increasing the severity of punishments. Yet the new framework maintains significant gaps. Under Exception 2 of Clause 63, the state still does not recognize marital rape as a crime, provided the wife is over 18 years old. The law provides a technical definition of the crime on paper, but a legal statute alone cannot reflect the full complexity of what is happening in homes and communities across the country. If we look at the state's metric, the National Crime Records Bureau, India records approximately 32,000 rape cases annually. This diagram visualizes a massive statistical contradiction. While the police record 32,000 cases, the National Family Health Survey tells a different story. Data reveals 99% of sexual violence in India never appears in a police report. This underreporting is even more severe in rural and marginalized communities, where distance to support services and lack of legal awareness make reaching the official record even harder. Official crime statistics do not measure the frequency of sexual violence. They measure the tiny fraction of survivors who successfully navigate the institutional obstacle course required to report it. One reason for the silence is a common misconception about who commits these crimes. The stranger in the dark alley is a rarity. Statistics show that in over 90% of cases, the perpetrator is an acquaintance, a family member, or an intimate partner. This familiarity leads to unacknowledged rape. Research indicates that up to 60% of survivors do not label their experience as a crime, often viewing the trauma as a personal misunderstanding or a product of social normalization. While the state demands a legal burden of proof, the community imposes a burden of shame. The survivor's character, clothing, and daily choices are often scrutinized more closely than the criminality of the perpetrator. Perception acts as the first filter. Survivors are conditioned to doubt their own trauma, calculating that the consequences of speaking out are more dangerous than the violence itself. This conditioning is rooted in patriarchal norms that tie a woman's fundamental value to modesty. When an assault occurs, it is frequently treated as a source of family dishonor, rather than a punishable crime against an individual. In the intersection of caste and gender, this violence becomes a weapon. Dominant castes frequently use sexual assault as a tool for power assertion, systematically targeting Dalit and Adivasi women in order to maintain rigid social hierarchies. This data table illustrates how official records fail marginalized women. When we compare the NCRB figures to systematic studies of severe violence, like murder with rape, we see a massive failure to capture the reality of marginalized victims. Reporting sexual violence triggers the immediate risk of total social and economic ostracization. For survivors in these communities, the justice system is a theoretical resource that remains effectively inaccessible in daily life. This timeline tracks forensic attrition. Without a medical exam within 72 hours, critical DNA evidence is lost forever. Even if they seek help, survivors face an institutional maze. This flowchart shows a massive drop-off at the police station, where lack of trauma-informed care and refusal to register FIRs cause most cases to collapse. Surviving cases then face judicial delays of up to 10 years. Over a decade, memories fade, and financial fatigue forces many to abandon the prosecution. The justice system demands pristine evidence and unshaken testimony, yet it operates at a speed that systematically destroys both. The ultimate consequence of this 99% gap is a culture of absolute impunity. When the system fails to capture the data, perpetrators are emboldened by the knowledge that their actions will likely carry no legal consequences. Fixing the pipeline requires fully funded one-stop centers for immediate medical and psychological care, alongside fast-track courts to ensure that justice is delivered while the evidence is still fresh. History shows that the system only evolves through collective social pressure. Public accountability has been the primary driver of legal reform, forcing the state to address systemic failures it would otherwise ignore. Addressing this crisis requires more than passing new laws. It requires dismantling the burden of shame, acknowledging the 99